The best too.
What song's stuck in your head right now?
Actually, it's awful. I watch these videos on YouTube called Idiots in Cars, and they play this like vibe music while they show people doing really stupid things. So that's it. It's like people just
Oh my
making a left
God.
turn from the right lane, like the far right lane, and like dumb stuff. That's what's in my head right now.
That's what's in your head right now.
I watch
That
them to
happens to me.
de-stress, and if you have a lot of stress, you watch a lot of YouTube at night.
That's what happens to me sometimes. Sometimes I will be stuck listening to the same thing over and over again. Hey, but we have a repeat guest, which we don't do very often. We only do it to people
Don't.
we love. And boy, do we love Karen Putz.
She's
So Karen
amazing.
is here representing a very specific app for families who have deaf children and hearing parents or something. Deaf children, hearing parents. Do I have that right?
I don't know. We'll find out. But it's for parents of deaf and hard of hearing children, as I understand it.
Hands and voices today. So our friend and yours, Karen Putz, joins us on the show of the Backpack.
Hi everyone, Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
So excited.
So excited. So we are so super lucky to have Karen Putz with us again. Karen is a friend, someone that I've known since I think 2008 or so, through our friend Liz Strauss. May she rest in peace. And is a good friend of my mom's and my dad's. And we're going to talk to her about Hands and Voices. And let's just drag her out here. Now,
She
the
makes me
difference on
feel
the show.
lazy.
Oh, she's always
She's
doing
an
something.
author, barefoot water skier. Now she's helped produce an app for parents of deaf and hard of hearing children. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm watching those stupid videos on YouTube.
That's what I'm doing. Trying not to cry. All right, let's grab us one Karen Putz. Hi, Karen.
Hello, you guys. Hello, my favorite people and your parents, too.
Very good to hear from you. So you're back again with another project. You did this thing called Hands and Voices. You've been writing book after book after book. What made you decide, oh, I think I'll help put an app out there too?
Oh, well, first of all, a lot of the younger parents, I mean, they're a heck of a lot younger than I am. I'm 56 now. My kids are grown. And all of the younger parents, they're using their apps, their phones. And it was like one day I thought we've got to create an app for parents who have this brand new baby in their hands and they just found out their baby is deaf, hard of hearing. Where are they going for information? So I just basically, I've worked for Hands and Voices for 20 years. And Hands and Voices is a parent-driven organization. We help support parents and families with deaf and hard of hearing children from birth. And so 20 years of working with Hands and Voices kind of just went into this app. We designed 90 days of support with 4 different things. And the first thing is wisdom from another parent. So we asked a bunch of parents to share their best wisdom and put 90 days worth of it in there. Then we went to deaf and hard of hearing adults and we said, what's your wisdom? And we put 90 days of wisdom from them. We gathered 90 of our best articles to guide parents, and then we gathered 90 different websites that they could explore. So every day this pop-up comes up on their phone and they do those 4 things. At the end of the 90 days, they have a wealth of knowledge to guide them for basically the rest of their life with their kids.
Did you talk with any parents while you were planning to produce the app about what they would need? Like, did their input help you create it?
We actually had like 20 years of that kind of thing, of working with families. So we just kind of sat down and said, what do parents need to know? 90 days worth of information. What do they need to know to equip them to, get through their feelings and to get to this place of fostering joy with that part of hearing kids? Because so much of our medical field is so focused on fixing kids or telling parents how tough it's going to be, how awful it's going to be. Your kid's going to have this low reading level. It's going to be tough for them to have jobs. Hello, I've got a very full life. I grew up hard of hearing and I became deaf at 19. And I did not have that positive influence at 19. In fact, it was a very dark time in my life. I wanted to end it. So that should give you some idea of what the media is doing and the input that we get, that being deaf is bad, being hard of hearing is tough. It's an awful thing, cuts you off from people. But in reality, it's just a difference. It's a different way of living. Through technology, here we are on this show and we're having a conversation here and it's working. And I can tell you, I get up every day. My life is freaking full. I enjoy it. Becoming deaf has actually been a blessing for me. I sleep really well at night. As silly as that sounds, I can shut my hearing aid off and boom, silence. Meditation is a heck of a lot easier. There's a lot of what we call deaf gain in being deaf.
You wrote recently about the benefits. You wrote an article that talked about some of the blessings you got when you lost your hearing. And so I like that. And I want to hear it. I want to hear you talk about that for a moment, because it ties into what you said about the way children, in these situations are viewed now, if they're lucky, because it used to be that we were talking about dealing with a disabled person, and it's not. It's just a different bunch of rules. It's a different set of tools. So can you talk a little about your article and how it connects to some of what we're talking about today?
Okay, I'll give you a very powerful example. We're using the internet right now. How many of you know that the internet was invented by a person who was deaf, hard of hearing? Okay, Vint Cerf was on the team. He's known as the father of the internet. So if you look him up, he's deaf, hard of hearing. So all these billions of people around the world are using the internet, and a deaf man helped invent it. So when you think about that, that puts things in perspective. And also, did you know that the very first pilot who flew from New York to LA was deaf? Now there's a deaf gain in there because back then the airplanes were open and very noisy. So it took a deaf person to get from New York to LA. So there are things in, space. When we were going into space, we put together a team of deaf people and we tested their ability, to handle motion. So this whole idea of being deaf as this dark, awful thing, is all about how you perceive it. It's all about how you look at it. People sometimes look at me, they feel sorry for me, and I say, I felt sorry for myself. So I get it. When I was growing up, being hard of hearing, my only measurement was other people who could hear. If I had deaf and hard of hearing people, if I knew about, this first step pilot, the first step doctor, the first step vet, maybe I would be a nurse, which is what I wanted to be. But back then I didn't have anybody encouraging me. I didn't know any deaf nurses. So we've got to change the paradigm for today's children and how we view being deaf, being hard of hearing. But we also need people with normal hearing to acknowledge us, to see us, to invite us to the table.
Does the app, Karen, work for parents of adolescents as well? Like, are there things in there for that, or is it focused on just the early days?
It definitely will work for parents with all ages. We made sure that we kind of made it very versatile. There's a lot of resources in there that will work for any age.
My teenagers pretend to be deaf when I ask them to do things.
Karen, besides this app, which is a good information delivery app, are there apps that deaf and hard of hearing people would almost be assumed to have on their smartphone? Are there apps that you keep sort of in your community that you all know about that we haven't heard much about or don't think about?
Well, right now I'm using an app that's actually captioning you guys because I can't see the captioning. So I'm using an app called Adder, and it's captioning and helping me to do this. I have an app on my phone that lets me call anybody on the phone, and an interpreter pops up, listens in on our conversation, and signs everything that's going on so I can access the phone. Um, there's so many things that technology has made our life accessible and a little bit easier. There's still a lot of videos out there where people don't have captions, no captions, or we'll go to a meeting and no interpreter. So we're not there yet in getting that full access.
A lot of comments coming in. Kate's laughing at me because my kids won't listen to me. A lot of people saying hello. And Papa Brogan says he loves you. That's sweet.
Karen, throughout your career, you have spent more of your time not talking directly about your hearing because it's not really the storyline. You talk about passion finding, and you talk about water skiing, and you bring up all these other topics, but here you are front and center of a hard of hearing and deaf people app. What do you think about that when it comes to your branding?
Well, it's funny because a lot more people have been telling me that I need to share the story of being deaf. And I often forget about it because I'm so deep into all these other things that being deaf, having these hearing aids, doesn't always have an impact. Like when I was training with barefoot water skiing, me and my coach, we figured out singles, he would bang on the boom to tell me to let go, things like that. I could lip read him where hearing people couldn't hear. So he could just sit there and tell me, lift your foot up, move your heel back, and I could lip read him, with 41 miles an hour, and other people couldn't. They would be screaming over the motor. So, but like when I'm going backwards, I definitely have a disadvantage because I can't lip read. You can't lip read from your butt. So
plenty of people talk out of their butt.
I turned over waiting for the boat driver to go, and they would tell me, no, wait. And I'm sitting there underwater holding my breath. Why isn't the boat going? Why isn't the boat going? So little things like that will throw you off. But there are times where being deaf is really tough. Like if you've got 5 people having a conversation, it's impossible to follow 5 people who are talking over each other. Things like that.
We have a couple of questions from Leslie. Would this app help people communicate with deaf people better? My daughter used to wait on a deaf man when she worked at a movie theater and would research ways to talk to him. She learned a lot of words and phrases on her own, and he helped her as well, was very appreciative. So would this app help?
The app is designed specifically for parents. It's more of an information and resource app. But as far as communicating, you pick up your phone, click on Siri, and start talking into your phone. We have so many speech-to-text options. Use them. Learn some signs. I really think that we should be teaching signs, basic signs to people, or at least finger spelling, just so that we have that access. I live in Rochester, where everyone signs here. So you go and everybody's signing thank you, the finger spelling their name, and it's cool to have that access.
Wait, why? Why do people in Rochester all sign? Is that some sort of hard of hearing enclave?
Rochester is home to Rochester Institute of Technology, NTID. So NTID is specifically for deaf and hard of hearing people. And we have, I think, like the census says there's 40,000 deaf hard of hearing in the area, And everywhere we go, like the first time we put our jet ski in a lake, we saw a whole family, 2 families who were deaf taking out their boat. So they're everywhere, and it's just kind of cool, and it's kind of awesome.
When you have teenagers who, as a rule, like to make up words, like I'm discovering they have their whole other language, how does that complicate things, for deaf parents, or is it the same? Like we're all in the same boat in a way, because I don't know what they're talking about when they're like yeet. I have to look that up. Or they just are full on like whole generation of words that I don't know. So do you try to incorporate them into apps that translate, or are you just like, I don't know, we're old?
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, my three kids are deaf. Some days I don't understand them. I mean, it's a different generation thing. And the world is moving so fast, you know? So,
So they'll need to make an app.
Google is my fun. When I don't understand something, I Google it so I can try to look like I'm a little smarter, you know? But I think it's a generation thing. I think it's a difference thing. And I think it's also we need to sit down and spend time with the kids to learn the world.
My kids like when I try to use their phrases in a sentence. Like I'll say something has the drip and they're like, Mama. They're so
the drip.
impressed.
Hang on.
Well, you know what I like to do? I like to throw in some 70 tones like fall out. Because, hey, if you can do that, I can do that too.
Hi, Elizabeth. Everyone's just saying hello. Kate says, born and raised in Rochester. Do you work much with them?
Hi, Kate.
I guess with people in Rochester. Leslie says, I agree that basic signs should definitely be taught. My children learned at their daycare before they could talk. Oh, is that the same? Or do they
This is a story that I want to tell. I was at Leslie's house with my ex-wife, and I think we were still waiting. Our baby hadn't come out yet. And Leslie's daughter came down the stairs crying and frustrated. And Leslie said, what do you want? And she said, she needs help. And she said, what do you want? And she said, water. And Leslie said, no. The daughter said, no, milk. And I went, and so I taught my children sign because Leslie did it. And so that's the only signs I know are like I have to go to the toilet and things.
If you think about it, when you go to another country, you always learn gestures, right? We just naturally do that as humans. We naturally move our hands, and Italians move them more. It's just a natural thing. All three of my kids were signing from the time they were 6 months, 7 months, the basic signs. It was great because it would just smooth the communication. They could tell me before they could talk.
It can be frustrating. I remember wanting to say things as an infant or child that I couldn't say. Like even silly, it's silly, but like I wanted to stack the stackable rings from smallest to biggest, and it doesn't work that way because the thing you put them on is shaped wrong for that. And I couldn't explain it, so I just cried. And they thought they were like, oh, he wants something to eat. Like, so I could see where signing would help. It did with my kids. I did the same as you, Chris. I saw somebody else doing signing and I thought that would be helpful, but it's not the full grammar and syntax of actual sign language. It's like just a few little things to kind of get you by. It's like I needed more complicated language to explain my ring situation. Yeah.
Okay, so we have to go and do some ads. So Karen, I'm going to put you backstage for just a minute. We'll do a quick ad read and we'll bring you back out. See you in just a minute. Oh my gosh.
Cody says we teach my son signs. He's not able to talk yet. No Kentucky jokes, Chris. Hayes has been a game changer. He really has. Leslie remembers. Oh, more.
Well,
I remember that one. More.
In the same, more. That's right. Mm-hmm. In the same visit, by the way, that was the one where Morgan was falling down the stairs at velocity. And Leslie just reached up and caught her with one hand. She was like, shoom, and just caught her and kept talking. And I was like, I'm going to be the worst parent ever in the history of parenting.
You got to,
because my kid going by, I'd be like, wow. Oh, okay. Let's do ads. Huh?
Kids are amazing at trying to kill themselves.
Yeah.
I saw a kid run down a hallway once, and then he had to turn like a little to do this, but he ran down the hallway, turned, and banged his head right into the corner of a table. Why
Like
though?
wizard.
I don't know.
We are sponsored by Castos. They help us put together our audio podcast, so they're good people. Castos. You could be like peas in a pod. Castos.com. Hey, want a .online domain? You can get one for $1 crisp American dollar. Go to cbrogan.me/online. Use the code Chris, however you feel like it.
All caps.
Oh, all caps. And it'll work. Want a show like this, a video show from the future where you could talk to deaf and hard of hearing people and it's not even a big deal? Go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard. You could totally do that. Get your show.
Get your own deaf author and barefoot water skier, an app developer.
And passion finder and multi-book published author. I don't know. I can't remember where we are with Kate. Let's give her one anyway. Hey, want some pre-search? Get some. You want a search engine that's better than Google? Well, who knows? But pre-search is different than Google, and you could do a lot of cool things with it. Presearch.com.
Get Karen back. We need Karen back. Okay.
Karen, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back. I was just looking at your book, Chris.
Oh, that old thing?
I just unpacked all my books. We moved out here a year and a half ago and just finished our basement. So I was unpacking books and I found this one. It's one of my favorites. It's written by Chris.
It's a good enough one. So tell me a little bit about
580 books.
580 people work at Appfire now. Karen, I don't know how you pick your projects. What makes you pick what's coming next? Is it going to be a hard of hearing project? Is it going to be a skiing project? Is it going to be, science fiction? What are you doing next?
Wow, that's a good question. It's a really good question, Chris. Right now I've got 4 books that I'm writing. How do I pick it? Scheduling, really. I chunk my time. I try to figure out what I want to do. I chunk my time. And I just figure out, what do I want the year to look like? How do I want to experience it? Right now I'm doing 50 states for my 50s. So I'm barefoot water skiing in 50 states. But I'm running out of time here because I want to do it before I'm 60. So that has, my attention right now. The 4 books, my work. And I launched Deaf Academy recently. So that's my newest project, is Deaf Academy. And that's basically a membership site where deaf, hard of hearing who sign can come in and, work on their self-growth, take courses, and that kind of thing. So I have what I call a life list. So there are all the things I want to accomplish in my lifetime on my life list. And I just look at it and I'm like, okay, that feels good. Let's go with it today. There we go. Wow, you're so good.
That's so cool.
What happens at Deaf Academy? I assume it's not like Fight Club. So what happens at Deaf Academy?
What happens in Deaf Academy stays in Deaf Academy. You got to be deaf to understand, got to be deaf to join, or you have to be deaf and be able to sign. That's why it's unique, is because everything that's out on the internet is captioned or available to hearing people. So at Deaf Academy, we sign to communicate. And that's what makes it unique, is that when you join the communications and sign, everybody has their audio on mute and we communicate with signs. So that's what makes it unique.
Leslie says, love the water skiing goal. Gary says, I'll be 58 this year. Time is running out. Wow. Which states are the hardest to barefoot water ski in?
Wow. The state that I think that's the hardest one, really there are accessible. I had a friend named Sparky, and he just finished his 50th state last year. So it's all possible. Alaska is a little challenging You have to be willing to be cold to ski there. Hawaii, we're doing this year. There's just one place in Hawaii where you can barefoot.
Why and where is
Why?
it?
Well, first of all, you need calm water. You can't really barefoot in the ocean. You're going 41 miles an hour. You need flat water, and there is a water ski club. So we're going to that and barefooting this year in Hawaii. I can't wait.
Couple others. Oh, Elizabeth says, love that. I need to write down my life list. I know. Have you added to the life list, like when the 50 states are all under your belt, what will you do next?
Okay, so what I'm thinking is doing all of the Great Lakes. I did Lake Erie last year, and I lasted about maybe, 2 seconds on the water. So I want to do the Great Lakes. I'm thinking about doing Canada. We live close to Canada. Why not do out of the Providences or something like that? Some of my friends are barefooted till they're 90. So that's the goal.
Annette says, I love that. A life list. She's probably going to make her own. Look at that, would you? Wow. Gary,
I just want to share that that's my mentor that you just saw.
Oh, wow.
With Judy. Yeah. And Judy is my mentor. I met her. She was 66. I was 44. That's the one. And she was the one who inspired me to get back on the water, because at the age of 44, I thought I was old. And then I saw her on the Today Show. And she's barefooting, and I'm doing the math, and I'm like, 44 is young. I have 22 years to catch up to her. And it's just been amazing, because she kind of opened my life to what was possible. And imagine if we all had role models, if the things that we used to do that were so joyful to us, if we could do them again. And if we found a role model who showed us that is possible, we would change our life like that. We'd start doing those things that we enjoy doing. And that's what Judy did for me, is that she opened up my life and the possibilities. And last summer I met a barefoot champion in Buffalo, and he was the first barefoot champion. And I barefooted with him. And it's just, here's the thing. When you do something that you are passionate about, people start showing up in your life, and doors start opening, opportunities show up, all because you've chosen to live your passion. So if I had one piece of advice for you today, that would be to sit and think about what brings you joy. Because the word passion kind of messes us up sometimes. But if you think in terms of joy, what brings you joy? Immediately you could start writing down, that cup of coffee that you have every morning. Okay, well, what if you went on a passion quest to taste 30 different coffees in 30 days? All of a sudden, you got something to do every day. You get up, you've designed a passion quest, and it gives you a purpose. It gives you motivation. It gives you a deadline. It gives you an experience. That's what you need to do to shake up your life, to shake up the daily routine that's the same old, same old, same old. Shake it up. Create a passion quest. Do something different. Go back and connect with your joy. Connect with people who are joyful. Like Chris and Kerry.
I'm showing some of your other passion because of all your different books, including writing about parenting and writing about money and writing about your water skiing and everything else. I mean, just so many different projects you've taken on over time. It's been really interesting to see where you pick these writing projects. Did you ever think this is where you were going to end up?
But I knew from a young age that I wanted to write. I loved Irma Baumbach. And so I knew I wanted to write books, and I know I have more in me, you know. But did I think that I was going to be barefooting at this age? No, because I didn't know anybody who barefooted over the age of 40 when I was growing up. So I thought that was a young person's sport. You know, so one thing I think is that we need to break, barriers. We need to break the boundaries and figure out, how do you know what the limits are until you reach them?
Gary says when you wipe out on water, it can be pretty tough. Leslie says, great advice. Coach Woodard asks, what is the connection between passion and purpose?
So what's the connection between passion and purpose? Passion is energy. Purpose is a goal or a driving force. So when you put them together, you have the energy of passion, and then you have a purpose, which is like the map. And you put them together, then all of a sudden you have an amazing life. And also, if you have certain gifts, certain talents, certain things that you love to do that make you you, and then you create a passion quest, which is a purpose, all of a sudden you have a map. When you get up the next morning, you know what you want, you know where you're going, you know what you're striving for. You put the two of them together, it's powerful. It's a life path. And it doesn't have to be stagnant. It doesn't have to be designed by anybody else but you.
Amazing. Elizabeth says, it brings me joy every time I see Chris smile with Batman reference.
I love Batman. He's right here with me somewhere. There he is.
Batman.
Well, hello, Carol. I mean, I guess we could just start the show. Oh, wait. Batman? Do it? Can you do it again?
Batman.
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 Okay, wait. So then what's Wolverine?
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman?
Yeah, there has to be a Wonder Woman.
This is sign for wolf. So,
wolf.
Wolverine. I don't know if this caption is coming out right.
Oh no.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Because of the cuffs.
Perfect.
That was very well done.
Gary says,
Thank you, Batman, Gary. It's Batman.
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 I like the energy of it. The fact that there's a motion that has to happen to make the sign.
The whole show has been worth it for you today, just for that.
I'm done. I can go home now. Oh, I am. Now, okay, but now I have to hang on a minute. Look at the banners because I have to know. Wolverine. Oh, and I have to type it up. There we go.
Wolverine. This is wolf. A wolf.
She doesn't know Wolverine. Okay. 1 second.
Oh no.
This is getting way deep.
We're going down a rabbit hole now. So strap in. Here we go.
All right. What's next?
He wants to show you Wolverine. I would bet $1,000. Yes.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. We would have to make up one. I would say like this. Wolverine would be this.
See, yes.
I mean, that's the beauty of signing, is that you can use what we call classifiers, like handshakes, and then make motions and then make a sign. Like, so Wolverine for me would be this. That's all I know, what I can see. And it's kind of like English. People would say things a certain way, and another person would say the exact same word a different way. Well, it's kind of like with signing too. You can tweak a sign a little bit and express yourself a little bit differently than someone else.
Cody is asking a variant of the question. I think you just answered. How do new words get signs? Like new word, like we were talking about earlier, teenagers have words like yeet. Of course, yeet, you would just be like, because that's what it's like to throw away. But or yoink, they say sometimes. So I guess it would be like grab, sort of like snatch. But are there new ones? When does the council come together and go over the list of new words and come up with signs, Karen?
Think about it. Language evolves naturally, right? These new things come up among teenagers. Same thing with signing. Someone would start a sign and it will spread, and then common signs get adopted in different regions. Like when Google started, now someone said Google because it's a sign for search, and then they put a G in it and it became Google. Just things like that happen naturally with language. Same thing with signing. It just naturally evolves just by who's talking, who's creating it, who's sharing it.
So listen, I feel like this episode is one of the first episodes I've talked to you much about signing and whatnot because of the app that we're promoting today. And I want to get back to, making sure people understand that app exists, which is long buried in my history now. So I'm gonna have to find it again. But Hands and Voices. I want to ask you one other thing about it while we're on this topic, because otherwise we're going to move on and next week you'll build a robot or something. Does sign language have accents? Like, can I tell if someone is speaking the Queen's English, or does sign language have like a stutter?
Yes. Signs have regionalities. So someone on the East might sign something different than on the West. Like I'm from Illinois. So we would sign early in Illinois or differently than others would sign like early. It would be different depending on where you're from. Sounds like an accent. Oh, that sign is from that area. Oh, that's how people over there sign it. Over here, we sign it differently. So yeah. So sign languages has that. Very similar to English. If you're from here, you speak that way or you sign that way.
People from Boston just don't use the R. Dean asks, does Karen have a favorite sign language expert that frequently appears on TV or does press conferences and things like that?
Wow. So like a favorite interpreter who shows up often. You're putting me in a corner here. If I name a name, I don't know. I would tell you that my favorite popular person is Marlee Matlin. I absolutely love her. She's done so much in her career, and she's probably my favorite, most well-known person.
Perfect. All right, we have come to that part of the show where we have to do a few things that we do every episode. One of those is Person of the Day.
Oh, and here's our Person of the Day. Kaboom!
Well, I've lost track of who's been Person of the Day more than anybody else or anything like that. It's really become a thing. But I am going to give it, I don't know, I'm kind of back and forth. You know what? I'm going to go with Gary. Gary had some, very direct comments this time. He talked about the show. He talked about the fact that he's got a little bit of hearing challenges and all that. So Gary wins for that. We were also talking about, what is it called? The Sound of Metal or something like that, which is the one with the actor whose name I'm going to forget, who plays a person who loses his hearing in a metal band. So Gary, you win Person of the Day. Congratulations. Okay. And now we ask the same question. We've asked you this question before, Karen, so you get another spot. What goes in your backpack? Something physical, something metaphorical? What else do you want to add to that backpack today?
First of all, I'm going to tell you what goes in the backpack is passion.
Of course.
Seriously, passion. Passion is an energy that's going to carry you through and the hype of life. Life without passion is dull, boring, routine. So go grab a dose of passion and throw that in your backpack of life, because life is worth it. Go find that joy, go find that passion, and get into that place of bliss in your life. Put it in your backpack, because the people around you will appreciate it.
I think it's a beautiful answer. I can't think of a better answer. So there was no official barefoot water skiing in my family, but I will say that there was water skiing. My uncle Roland and my aunt B took us water skiing. And every now and again, instead of learning barefoot water skiing, we learned that lakes could give you an enema.
Glad everything came out okay.
Oh, that was a true story too.